To start with, I removed the passenger side's battery. I also wrapped the positive side of the cable in a non-conductive material because I did not remove the driver's side battery. The evaporator coil for the air conditioner is underneath this case. In order to get the map sensor out of the way, I unplugged this connector and removed these 3 nuts. If your connector is stuck, you can remove the vacuum line from the spider here. Move the map sensor, connector, and vacuum line out of the way. When possible, I put fasteners back where they came from after the part has been removed. The next part to come off is the passenger side intercooler tube. If possible, it is a good practice to leave the clamps tight on the tube itself and remove the clamps on the intercooler mount and the spider mount. If your truck has a starter solenoid on the passenger side inner fender, be mindful of it or cover it with a non-conductive material. Next, remove the 2 bolts holding the vacuum pump to the fender. Move aside the vacuum reservoir by unbolting the mount by removing the 3 nuts in the fender well. I prefer to mark disconnected connectors and loose vacuum lines with some sort of high-vis tape. Removing the blower motor is optional, but I found it to be a good idea in order to clean up excess water. Disconnect the electrical connector and remove the 3 bolts. Remove the rubber tube and pull the blower motor out of the housing. At this point, you can just barely see the evaporator coil inside the housing. In order to remove the top bracket from the housing and the firewall, remove the 2 bottom bolts and the 2 bolts out of view on the firewall. Unplug the electrical connector on the dryer. Remove the 3 clamp style bolts on the dryer. Once the clamp bolts have been removed, the dryer should no longer be secured to the case. There are 2 bolts holding the dryer bracket to the case that are difficult to reach. They are between the dryer and the bracket. Once all 4 of the dryer bracket bolts have been removed from the case, the bracket can be removed. There are 11 bolts securing the cover of the case to the base of the case. Each of these bolts must be removed. Once all 11 bolts have been removed from the case cover, push the case towards the engine and then towards the front of the vehicle in order to remove the case cover. With the case cover removed, there is clear access to the evaporator coil on the engine side. In order to gain access to the coil on the blower side, gently lift the system and push it towards the engine. With the coil pushed towards the engine, you should have clear access to the side that needs to be cleaned. I used spray-on simple green, low pressure water hose, a 90-degree adapter for my air compressor, and a nylon brush to clean both sides of the evaporator coil. This is what the blower side of the evaporator coil looked like after the cleaning. This is a shot of the before the cleaning on the bottom and after the cleaning on the top. Well, that's everything. The evaporator coil is now clean. Both Keith and Paul saw good results with this, but mine were not quite as good. The air conditioner temperature still dropped a couple degrees, got cooler faster, and the blower seems to have more force behind it. At least now I know the evaporator coil will not be a problem in the future.